Thank you to everybody for joining us for today's sibling panel. I'm Lucy Beednell with the ARC of Northern Virginia, and I am absolutely tickled to have our three panelists with us here today sharing their sibling experiences. I answer a lot of the frontline questions that come in through the ARC of Northern Virginia, and I cannot tell you how many questions we get from parents who are asking about the sibling impact on their young children, how to help siblings prepare as their child with a disability ages and they need that support from siblings, and siblings themselves who are really more and more being really proactive, like the folks on this panel are, and taking a really strong role in planning and pushing forward to make sure their adult sibling with a disability has a good life. And one of my favorite siblings recently retired. She was a woman named Pat Carver from Michigan, and she worked to help her brother leave an institution in Virginia many decades ago. And she always said, I feel like I bring a valuable perspective to Jimmy's life because when my own kids come home for break, they're my kids and I spoil them and I take care of them. But when Jimmy comes over, I make him do his laundry, right? Like we have very different expectations for our siblings than we do for our children. And that expectation tends to be higher, right? We as parents want to dote on our loved ones and always care for them and always be together. But as siblings, we can really see a different kind of potential and our siblings with a disability, and really truly amazing things can happen with that great involvement. So I'll go ahead and share my slides today to just give you guys a sense of what we're going to go through. All right, so today we're joined by Ginny Conroy, Walter Suskind, and Dora Tetteyfio, and then we're going to give each of them about 10-ish minutes to share a little bit of their life story, what it meant to be a sibling of someone with a disability growing up and how it's impacted them in adulthood. And then we'll open it up to questions. And when we open it up to questions, unless you really are asking that of a particular panelist, feel free to ask the question in general, and we'll give all of our panelists a chance to answer if they feel like it's something that they want to contribute to. And a huge thanks to Dora, who brought the idea for this panel to us. So really, particularly grateful to her for doing that. Okay, so we'll turn things over now to Ginny. Ginny, take it away.
Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, I'm going. Does anybody hear that echo? Okay, maybe it was just me. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today and for putting this together. We love the ARC of Northern Virginia and all the work that you all do. So thank you. I wish that I could have heard a panel like this when I was growing up. Okay, so today I'm here to share some wisdom from growing up with the most incredible individual I know, my brother Russell. I promised myself I was going to get it together, but for some reason, every time I start talking about Russell, I get so emotional. So I'm going to try to hold it together for this presentation. I apologize. Okay, so this is Russell. This is a picture of my mom and Russell and I when we were really little, and a picture of Russell and I on our walk just a few weeks ago at Roosevelt Island. Okay, wisdom. Here is some wisdom. So I have the word think. Think to me stands for, is what I'm about to say thoughtful, honest, intelligent, necessary, and kind. And this I think is the most important thing to think about whenever you're with anybody or talking to anybody about anything. But I just wanted to share a couple stories from when Russell was born in 1986. My mom, I'll never forget the stories that she tells. Russell was number 6. The 6th child in our family. And it was the same hospital staff, the same doctor, the same nurses that she had in all of her pregnancies. They were so thrilled to see her. And after she had Russell, my mom says she couldn't believe it. She had to cheer up the nurses. There was a couple nurses in particular who made comments like, "Anne, don't worry, you have 5 other beautiful children," when she delivered Russell. And Russell, of course, was the cutest baby and the most incredible, probably easiest baby, my mom says, of everyone. My mom tells stories that some of our family members, when they came and visited Russell, said the same thing. It was like my mom just cheering people up, which is awful to think about. My sister, Katie, I talked to her the other day. She actually works at Virginia Hospital Center, and I just asked her some questions, what she remembers when Russell was born, and she agreed that people need to stop and think before they talk. She remembers, she was older, and I believe she was 9 at the time, and she remembers that when my dad came to pick up all the kids to take them to the hospital to meet Russell, she'll never forget. My dad said, "There's something wrong." And Katie thought, "Oh my gosh, there's something wrong with my brother. Is he going to die? What's wrong with him?" And she remembers being so mad at my dad because when she saw Russell, it was this cute little tiny baby, and she was so excited to hold him. So words matter, and they're really important. So stopping and thinking before you talk to anybody about anything is so important. What am I about to say? Thoughtful, honest, intelligent, necessary, and kind. I think a lot of times is what I'm about to say necessary. And then thank God for my mom. At the hospital, my oldest sister, Sarah, said to my mom, "Mom, what are you going to tell Russell when he's older? Like, are you going to try to have another baby after him?" And my mom said, "I'm just going to tell Russell, I just kept having babies until I had him." So it's really important to stop and think what messaging you're sending to anybody about anything before you speak. I feel so awful that my mom had to go through that, but I'm so lucky that I have her, her humor, her honesty, her ability to be so positive when faced with adversity. So we're lucky to have her. Okay, moving on. Some other wisdom that I have as a sibling is choose your battles, know when to protect and when to let them lead you. I have countless stories growing up as Russell's older sister. I'll never forget in the lunchroom when my mom would come and volunteer in the lunchroom at our school. And when Russell was really little, he would, come with my mom. And I'll never forget hearing a little boy in the lunchroom say, "Look at that retard," and point and call him names. And of course, I wanted to go punch him in the face. That was a little boy that Russell chose to take his little lunchbox and sit next to. So many stories like that. Another day I was picking up Russell from his school down the street, and I was so proud to walk him home every day. And I'll never forget, there was a little boy walking behind me, same thing, that was just calling Russell names. And again, I wanted to punch him in the face. And I was so protective of my perfect little brother. And I had to know when to protect and when to let him lead you or let him lead me. And I'll never forget that one day walking home from school and Russell turned around. He understood everything that was going on and gave that little boy a hug. Russell taught me more about compassion and kindness that day than anybody else in my entire life. Moving on, let go of expectations. It's important to lead with curiosity, not judgment. Russell hasn't just taught me how to treat people with disabilities. Like I said, he has taught me how to treat all humans with love, kindness, compassion, integrity, and authenticity. Russell treats everybody equally, no matter who they are. So Russell has taught me so much just by being himself, his authentic self. I don't know about you, but every time I hold on to expectations of events or of people, I always end up getting let down. So I found, growing up with Russell, that when I let go of expectations and let go of expectations and just lead with curiosity, not judgment, then I tend to learn more and have deeper relationships and have more fun. So I hope that you know that I am who I am today because of Russell. He has taught me so much, and it's so great. I have on there, welcome to the Special Family Club, because every time I meet somebody with a special family member like Russell, it's kind of like we have our own special club, and we get it. We get how to let go of expectations and how to love each other and lead with compassion. So I would say, welcome to the Special Family Club. And if anybody ever feels like, they are having a really hard time with letting go of the expectations, then, it's important to build community and to reach out to somebody to talk to about some of your thoughts and feelings and expectations. So I have on my next slide a picture of my daughter Grace and her favorite Uncle Russell, and just watching Grace with Russell gives me faith in humanity again. I am, again, like I said, who I am because of Russell and growing up with him. And I am thrilled to have Russell, spend so much time with Grace. And we look forward to Russell moving in with us in the future. And watching Grace with him and run off. She never wants to hold my hand when we're together. She always wants to be with her very special, kind Uncle Russell. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to share quickly that I do a fair amount of meetings with Jenny's mom, Anne, and she is true to the words she said when Russell was born. And she often says, I'm a mom of 6. I just kept going till I got my perfect child. And that really sets the tone for what she expects of people's expectations of him. And as a credit to Jenny, she's often in the room when that is said. And she rolls right along with it.
Russell has been easier than all of my siblings combined. And I have some families that, even with what I do for a living at Social Grace, I have some families that will say, oh, my 21-year-old, they did this for their 21st birthday. And I remember for Russell's 21st birthday, we went bowling. And I've had some families that have said, I just feel so bad. My 21-year-old sitting at home, they're not going out with friends. And I'll say, you mind about my 21st birthday? You want to know what I did on my 21st birthday? It was not pretty. And I would rather, going back, have a child who, wanted to go bowling on their 21st birthday than getting dropped off very early from alcohol poisoning. So anyways, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you very much. So we will, let's see, roll along here. And Walter, you are up to bat.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've spent over the years gotten to meet different ARC chapters, and the work that the ARC does for a million families, like the siblings that are talking up here, it's incredible. So happy to be here. And it's so great to hear Ginny's story about her and Russell and their life. I think the interesting thing, whenever I get together with other siblings, is how much overlap and parallel we have in our lives. It can often be people I've only met for 10 minutes, but if they're a sibling, I immediately fall into this groove of conversation of noticing similarities, having stories to share. And it's just so invigorating and refreshing when you realize how many incredible siblings there are out there, and, that all of us have a Russell or an Owen in our lives that, makes us who we are, as Ginny was talking about. So a little bit about my brother. I'm the 32-year-old older brother of Owen. He is 29, turning 30 in 1 month and 1 day, and we are counting down for the big birthday. Owen's autistic. He was diagnosed when he was about 2.5 years old, right around the time our family moved down to Washington, D.C. And, my parents will always say from that moment on, our lives changed, and the path we've walked down is our own. And like any other family, it's been unique and special to us, but it's also been a path that I think a lot of people on this call can identify in some way or another. And, Owen is, he's progressed at his own rate. The 5-year-old who is nonverbal is a ball of energy now, constantly reaching out. But as Ginny talked about, I think it was a lot about letting go of the supposed tos and the expectations, that we've charted our own course, and Owen, and being the captain of that ship, has made us the family we are. I think for me as a sibling growing up, it was also, though, at the same time, definitely confusing in a ton of ways, that I didn't know a lot of other siblings like me. But Owen was my younger brother, and like any older brother, I wanted to be there for him. I wanted to be there to protect him. And, like my parents, we were learning as we went. So I think there were a lot of times when I turned and realized, what is the playbook here? What can I do? What are ways that I can be helpful? And, it was a testament to all my parents have done, that, they were there for Owen, and I was able to figure out how to be part of that team. But it's something as a sibling that it's a lot of like anything, but it's a lot of self-discovery. And, I developed alongside him, and we've been, together walking this path. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that younger sibling and teenage sibling experience, and what I've learned and heard from a lot of other siblings as I've been working to bring siblings together. So I can talk a little bit about that on the next slide. So 2 years ago, I started an organization called Strong. The idea kind of came up when about 3 or so years ago, I realized I could count the number of other siblings I knew on one hand. I knew that you look at the statistics, whether it's autism or disability at large, and I realized there were so many siblings out there like me, yet growing up and even into my 20s, I didn't really have people to turn to that would get it like I did. My friends were great. They were there, they were supportive, but, they weren't walking in the shoes I was walking in. And so what we do at Strong, the idea is none of us have all the answers, but it's empowering to be with other siblings who recognize, the unique, special nature of our brothers and sisters that we've been with, but that it's also important for siblings to have a place where they can talk and where they can, discuss things that only other siblings would get. And talking to some of these younger siblings, things that, and older siblings too, things that pop up a lot of, there aren't always a lot of opportunities to discuss and normalize this unique experience we have. And that's through no fault of anyone's. It's, a lot of times, and I definitely felt this when I was younger, there were things I didn't want to say to my parents that, I saw everything they were doing for Owen, and I kind of wanted to be there and be helpful, but they're things that I felt uncomfortable talking about. And, even when I was younger, I knew that, Owen and I were a team, and we'd be a team for a long time. And there were thoughts about the future. And again, it was something I kind of internalized and said, I'll figure it out as I go. I'm fine. And, realizing that wherever you are on that spectrum, however you feel about it, it just helps to give air to what you're feeling. And it's comforting to know, okay, there are other people that I can turn to and talk about how I'm feeling. And so what we do, we see these gatherings as a great opportunity for siblings to just kind of take a load off and realize, this isn't a therapist, this isn't school, this is just other people like them, and whatever they say is valid, however they're feeling is valid. And you can, realize that other people are in similar positions. And I think it's been also, really helpful to hear, to be able to talk about Owen, to be able to realize what other siblings, what Ginny was talking about, all the things she does with Russell, and to be able to see the parallel paths and to realize, oh, that's something I could do with my brother, or talk about, the unique relationship that, when I try and explain it maybe to people outside the disability community, they say, okay, that's nice, but really being able to connect with that, I think, is empowering, and it just helps to know you have a community around you. And then for adult siblings, I think it's the same thing. When we get adult siblings together, it's often interesting that they're not that much different than the middle school and, high school siblings that say, this is the first time I've been able to talk with a large group of folks like me. And I think especially, I'm at the age, and I'm extremely lucky that my parents are still around, they're still healthy, they're still there and charting Owen's life forward. But, I, like a lot of other siblings, have thoughts of what does the future look like? And, none of us have all the answers, but hearing that, oh, this sibling, their family managed this, they planned it out this way. It's, it's pooling our resources and experiences together. And that's, incredibly helpful as I try, and many other siblings try, and plot out how can we best, one, be there for our brothers and sisters, but also Owen's a huge Disney fan. Owen's thing is Disney. And one of the movies we watched until the VHS tape broke, was The Little Mermaid. And Ariel always talks about wanting to be part of this world. And Owen and so many other of our incredible siblings want to be part of this world. And we as siblings, I think, have a unique opportunity to push that forward, to help people see the incredible brother that I have. I want everyone around to see that too. So it's even talking about, what are ways to further, employment and social engagement opportunities. And it was interesting. I was talking to my mom. My brother's working at Dick's Sporting Goods now. And the manager, my mom had gone with my brother to the store a couple of weeks ago, and the manager came up and said, we're so happy Owen's here. And, we just want you to know that he's taught us more than we could have ever imagined. And, the more our brothers and sisters are out there teaching the world, I think we all as families know, the better this world's going to be. So I'll just finish up real quick a little bit about SibStrong and then turn it over to Dora. So we're and I'll send all this information around, but we're a by siblings for siblings organization. We provide, right now during COVID, virtual gatherings where siblings of different ages can check in. We know that no two circumstances, no two families are going to be alike, but when you get together with other siblings, you realize our parallel paths, we all have something to, share and give. And so our design is, depending on age, we just have, no supposed to's, no anything, just informal gatherings where siblings can get together and talk. And the one thing we really try and do, when I was talking to siblings, in their 20s and 30s, so many of us, and I can bring this up on the last slide, we all talked about, I wish I had a time machine and I could go back and talk to my 9-year-old self. I could say, hey, I know you think you're the only brother who has someone like Owen, but that's not the case. And so laddered mentorship is really where we try and, focus on the idea that, for our younger sibling gatherings, it's all facilitated and run by older siblings who can just be there as sounding boards and to talk about their experiences. And there's just a certain authenticity of, we're all siblings here and we can give back to our younger selves, and our younger selves can, kind of the camp counselor model I always thought of. When I was 12 years old, I thought my 19-year-old camp counselor was just about the coolest person in the world. Well, if that's a sibling that can talk to you, I think it just helps to make you more comfortable in your role. So it's been tremendous, and we're bringing in more siblings every week. And, thank you so much. It's so great to be here with 2 other incredible siblings, and look forward to hearing about Dora's experiences and, taking questions from everybody.
Thank you. That was awesome. And we will send out links to Ginny Conroy's work at Social Grace. There was already a question about what she does there, and absolutely links to SibStrong. And then for folks who don't know, Walter and his awesome brother, Owen, both awesome, sorry, not just awesome, one of you, were in an absolutely incredible documentary that won really wide acclaim at the Academy Awards and even more broadly in recent years. And we'll send out a link to that too. And it certainly heavily references the Disney, right? That the Disney love that Walter mentioned today. Oh, Walter.
No,
sorry.
I can bring that up later, and this is all out there. So all set. Thank you so much. And yes, a lot of Disney in our lives. I watch more Disney than probably any 32-year-old.
Okay, Dora, we would love to turn the mic over to you.
Well, hi, everybody. And thank you for having me here. So I'm listening to Jenny and Walter, and their experiences are so different from my experience. And that also could be, I'm a few years older than them. So growing up, things were a little bit different in the late 70s, early 80s, as far as having a special needs sibling or a special needs student. It's just David and I were exactly a year apart. So growing up with him, was just growing up with him. But, you have these sometimes emotions of does he get all of the attention and I don't. We didn't go to the same schools. We are Fairfax County kids, but at that time, we were separated. So I was a graduate of South Lakes High School, and David was a graduate of McLean High School, because at the time, that's the school that had the program for special needs students. So it was just different. Although we're a year apart, David is older than me. However, when you have a special needs sibling, sometimes you feel like you have to be the guardian, the protector, the everything. So roles kind of changed without changing. And, you know, I turned into that older sibling somewhat, making sure he was okay, making sure that, you know, we did things together. My dad always said, you know, you two are all you have. So it was just more of a protective thing. He has a routine, and if you break his routine, it can go haywire, absolutely haywire. So it's just been a learning experience over the years with David. He currently lives with my parents in the basement. I have been entertaining group homes, but my parents are not entertaining group homes. So as you get older, there are different things as a sibling that you become aware of. I want to say it was 11 years ago, my dad had a stroke that paralyzed him and left him wheelchair bound. My parents had not done anything in preparation for David as to where he would go, how he would survive. It was, you have a sister, so she's going to be your caretaker. And there was so much I had to learn that I did not know. I didn't know what his actual diagnosis was. I didn't know any of that. He had been hospitalized when I was in college. So there were a variety of things that as a sibling I had to learn. So in my current role, I am actually a special ed administrator. So when I have meetings with parents, I let them know they have to have a plan in place. It's difficult because then you have to start making decisions that your parents may not necessarily be okay with. But you have to be okay with it, knowing that your sibling is going to be okay in the long run. Both my parents now actually happen to be disabled. So it's my responsibility, not only as a caretaker for David, but as a caretaker for, you know, two parents. So it's been tough. I went to college and I majored in political science, not knowing law or political wherewithals was not going to be my thing. I substituted for a whole year, and I happened to substitute for a special needs class. And at that time, I just got into it and realized, wow, this is what my brother had to go through. Because you don't know how they feel, you don't necessarily know, you know, what they're going through. And so I had an opportunity to take a little step into that world by becoming a special education teacher. So, and I do it for him. And the reason why I say I do it for him is because it gives me all the opportunity and learning power to learn about him. It also gives me an opportunity to speak to parents and just let them know what I've gone through and what I'm currently going through. It is, it's amazing the strength that your special needs sibling has. You know, it's amazing. That's all I can say is sometimes we do underestimate them, but it is amazing the strength that they have, and the depths to which they can work with you and, you know, give you advice and walk you through certain things. So it's definitely been a learning experience. I love it. Sometimes it's it can be overwhelming. For instance, COVID has been very interesting with David. So a break in his routine will absolutely, you got to be careful how you walk through it. But through having a sibling, and then working with parents and students every day, I wanted to create an organization of some sort that would help give advice, would help complete paperwork, because until I became a SPED teacher, I did not know how much paperwork was involved. And then when they're transitioning from high school to adult living, that involves a lot as well. And I wish I had someone to prep me, to transition me as well through that. So I decided to put together my own, and I called it the Educated Butterfly, just because it's been a metamorphosis of changes and learning opportunities. So I've gone through the daily transitions and things of that nature, but I recommend to all families that you share everything when it comes to a special needs sibling with the other siblings, just because you never know what might happen, and everybody needs to be informed. So with that, that's the bond that I have with my brother. We're 45 and 46, so our situation has definitely come a long way. The opportunities that are given to special needs students and their families has, come a very long way. And I'm so happy to see what I see every day. So with that being said, I appreciate being involved in this panel today, and hope that any questions you have, I can answer for you.
Dora, that was absolutely awesome. So, and what Dora said speaks to a lot of queries that we get at the Arc of Northern Virginia. So it would not be uncommon for me to get an adult sibling reaching out to me saying, I've all but inherited someone, right? My parents didn't leave plans. They didn't talk to me about what was going on. I'm not really sure, to Dora's point, I'm not really even sure what my sibling's diagnosis is or where I would look to find that. And all of a sudden, one or both of my parents are incapacitated or have passed away, and I'm in another state or another country. I'm trying to figure this out. So that communication is absolutely critical. I'll go ahead and start walking us through some of the questions that are in the chat. And like I said before, we'll just let our panel speak to them. I'm sorry, I can't get rid of the background noise here. I'm running a few virtual classrooms. Thank you, COVID. Shay Beadnell here. So we just do our very best to manage things.
Lucy, can
So
I say
one
one
first question? Yeah.
I was going to say one more thing, and of course, and thank you again, Dora and Walter. You guys are amazing. It was crying when you were talking amazing siblings. And I'm just so proud to be up here with all of you. But I also wanted to say, so I talked about a lot of the positive things and how Russell, shaped me to be who I am. And that's what helped me found social grace. And I used to be in special education and behavior analysis. There's a lot of, Russell is the most incredible person that I know. But I realized in listening to the other panelists that I really didn't share any of my frustrations with my parents. And that's a whole nother day. And people, yeah, I see your heads nodding. And, Russell is the baby of the family and he's almost 35 years old now. And, but part of what I do now is, like Dora, and help families set, I can help so many other families on that whole transition to adulthood and setting individuals up for success and independence, right? And, even if it's, little pieces at a time. But I do feel like after Russell aged out of the, public school system, that my parents totally took away all his independence. So I feel like as a sibling, knowing that I'm going to be Russell's caretaker one day, or heck, Russell's going to be taking care of me one day when he moves in, hopefully sooner than later. But what can we do? I love what Dora said, like having a plan. Yes, we need a plan. We need to talk about it. My parents, still treat Russell like a baby. He's almost 35 years old and my mom still lets him watch Barney. Walter, Russell and I memorized every, song and dance in Beauty and the Beast. So we have that connection. But, so that's something to talk about. My parents get very, I can help other families, but I can't necessarily help my own family with Russell. So I have to literally sneak him out of the house sometimes. And he lives down the street from me. And sometimes the last thing I wanted to say is, recently I was eating dinner. My mom said, "Oh, can you cut his chicken?" And I said, "No, Russell can cut his own chicken. He's a grown man. He knows how to cut his chicken." And my mom will just say, "Oh, just let me do it." No, Mom, Russell can cut his chicken. And I'll just look at Russell and say, "Russell, when you live with me, it's not happening. You're going to be cutting your own meat." And he just kind of laughs at me and rolls his eyes. But yeah, so just treating our siblings like individuals. And if the goal is independence, even if, being a little bit more independent when he's living with me one day, then we have to set him up for success. So I would say, I guess I didn't talk at all about how I do get very frustrated with my parents in treating him like a child because he's not a child. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then just a little plug for our stomping ground, formerly called City Center Nova, is a nonprofit. Amazing. The moms who started this nonprofit, oh my gosh, so close to my heart. So it's formerly City Center Nova. They had to change the name to Our Stomping Ground. And I have Social Grace. My company has partnered with them and we are providing social programming for Our Stomping Ground. And Our Stomping Ground has partnered with the Affordable Housing, APA. All of the new buildings going up in the area, 8 to 10 of the apartments are earmarked for individuals with developmental disabilities. And Social Grace is going to be doing the social programming, but it's really just creating more inclusive communities. So having programming and getting, places in the community involved. So I'm so excited that Russell will be participating in that. And we are going to be doing a lot with Our Stomping Ground. So I encourage every family on here to sign up and, get the emails from Our Stomping Ground and to come join us. We have healthy hangouts in the park. We go on walks. There's book clubs, just working together, being part of these special family clubs. We have to do it together. So build community. This is a great community. Everybody's included and it has just been so amazing being part of Our Stomping Ground. So I encourage everyone to join.
And we will absolutely send out links to Our Stomping Ground. I'm making little notes to myself about anything that gets mentioned so we get sent out. Walter, jump in.
Yeah, I was, as Dora was talking, thinking through, that idea, and I'm, obviously younger, but in a similar position of, if my parents weren't here tomorrow, I don't feel like I would be adequately ready. And, I've talked to so many parents and siblings having this feeling. And I think to all the parents out there, and I can't quite understand it because I don't have a kid, but I think, the idea of not having your hands on the wheel for your child and not being there, I can't imagine how, especially for a child with a disability, how scary that must be. And the idea of even thinking about the future when you're not there can be daunting. But I was also, as growing up, and I think a lot of siblings heard this, was don't worry about your brother. We want you to live your own life. But our siblings are part of our life. And so what Dora's doing, in terms of helping with this plan, I think the idea of just getting there early and opening those channels of communication, because whether your kid's saying it or not, they're thinking about it. And, it's going to be hard, but that Band-Aid needs to at least be thought about being ripped off. Have the conversation about ripping off the Band-Aid and then rip off the Band-Aid, whatever you want to do. But, it's, not letting it wait till you're in your mid-20s or early 30s and saying, okay, what do we do now that, trust us that, our brothers and sisters will be in good hands because they're going to be with us. But, and it's going to be scary, I know, but starting and just getting those channels and getting things moving is so important. And that's why when Dora was talking about all that, it's, I think a cliff that all of us see up ahead and, getting prepared for it.
You all have really hit on this nicely, and that the importance of kind of sharing the information and including. And one of the very first questions we got was, I'm a mom of 3 and my oldest 2 have Down syndrome. How do I foster that love and sense of nurturing in my 3rd without making it feel forced, without making him feel like, look what your life has dealt you, and this is what you absolutely have to do under all circumstances.
So,
any thoughts? Yeah.
say, well, I always say that Russell is our gift from God, and we are just so blessed to have him. And I truly feel like every one of our special siblings is a gift. But I would say, and how to foster, love is, so again, Russell's taught me how to, again, like I said, not just treat people with disabilities, but how to treat all people. Russell treats every single person he meets with love, authenticity, kindness, compassion, everybody, not just people with disabilities. So I would say, having that talk about how our brains are wired, everybody has strengths. I have a lot of strengths, but I have a lot of weaknesses, a lot. And Russell just has a lot of strengths, and Russell has a lot of weaknesses. Each and every single one of us here today has strengths and weaknesses. Our brains help us do a lot of really great things, and our brains, need a little bit of work in some other areas. So I think that if we, truly want a more inclusive world, we can build that. We need to teach people that we all have strengths and weaknesses, every single one of us, and celebrate that. Celebrate that we have weaknesses, celebrate that we make mistakes, celebrate that there are certain things that my brain just makes it really hard for me to do, and that's okay. So I always take it from that angle.
That's excellent. So there was a great comment in here that I think speaks to an experience that very many folks have with her little sister with a disability, who's now in her 40s, has grown up, and she wanted the same experiences that her typically developing siblings had. She saw her typically developing siblings go off to college and live in their own apartments, and she expected the same of herself. And that kind of helped push the agenda forward. It's such a great reflection on how typically developing siblings really help the family move in a more positive direction for the person with a disability in a lot of cases. And the sibling has talked about how wonderful it's been to watch her grow and all these things she's done with her. And then ending with, my prayer is that I will outlive her. And this speaks really to something that we hear a lot and that you all have shared, knowing that you are very likely to outlive your parents, right? Yeah. And I just feel like there's no magic answers, but there's also no substitute for open discussion and good planning that you all have spoken to, and kind of pulling off the Band-Aid and saying, we really have to talk about this. And do you guys have any more thoughts to share on that?
I do. So my prayer too is that I outlive David as well, just because how you want to make sure everything is okay. You want to make sure that everything is done properly. But you also want to make sure that your sibling has the best experiences, and that they know that you care. And I think sometimes, especially for me, I can be so busy in that role of supervisor for everything from personal to work that, I forget about him sometimes. And you just want to make sure that they're okay. You want to make sure that they're happy. So you're going to do what you need to do to ensure that. David has been, really, really blessed. We were able to get him a job through DARS. So at the time, you young people don't know what HEX was. It's now Macy's. So he retired after 25 years of working there. So he got that communication piece down, because he really does not talk a lot at all, especially to strangers. But in that position, that helped him. He said he wanted to do something different. So now he works at Harris Teeter. So it's just a great opportunity for him. But trying to get him out there is very difficult. So that's the issue that I'm having now, is that social piece. So I'm working on that. But at 46, there's some things you're just not going to do. And I know someone asked about guardianship. After a certain age, guardianship is difficult to get and very expensive. However, I have power of attorney. So just for whoever asked that question, just you can look into it. The ARC is really good with that. But I have power of attorney. I have all power of attorney, medical, financial, all of it.
I did want to jump in with what Dora was saying and say yes. And siblings tend to be the people who, as Dora has done, say, I'm not spending thousands of dollars to go be guardian of my sibling. I am their partner in decision making. And that's something that we as the ARC really advocate for as a civil rights organization. And so absolutely, I'll send out a link to our supported decision-making library with information on how you can craft free or low-cost powers of attorney and how you can use those to protect people along with other tools. But yeah, that's a really good one. So we had a tough question. And what happens when we have maybe a sibling who doesn't appear to want to be quite so involved in the life of their sibling with a disability? And as a case manager, I saw this in action, but I'd love y'all's thoughts on it.
So I'm number 5 of 6, and I would say 2 of my siblings, one of my older sisters and I, will be, the decision makers, and we are the co-guardians for Russell. And my other siblings want nothing to do with it. And you know what? But they, again, looking at everyone has strengths, everyone has weaknesses, so I am thrilled to be able to be the one in the family who can make decisions. And I'm so excited for Russell to move in with me in the future. And now that my mom has dementia and my dad's got a lot of health issues and things going on, so I'm, I feel very blessed to be the one that God chose to take care of everything, I guess. And I don't think any differently of my siblings that don't have the same strengths as I do. They have other strengths, and our strengths and weaknesses are different, and that's okay. It is hard when you're in a family and there's only one sibling, and the one sibling, may not feel equipped, and that's okay. There are we have to build community. That's why I love the families in our stomping ground, because we are a community, and we have these hard conversations, and it's okay. Walter, when it comes time, give me a call. We'll get together. We'll go for walks. I will help you through it. Anybody on here today, give me a call. I'll give you my phone number. Email me. Lucy will send out my information. This is like what I was put on earth to do, is help other families, because sometimes I can't help my own family members. Like right now, my parents are driving me crazy with my brother because I want to do more for him, and they don't want to give up control, and that's okay. I'm going to go help other families. And when it comes time, I can help my own family, or one of you can help my family members, and I'll swap services. And that's what happens when like it takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village for any child, no matter what their age. So get in community. If you're not in community, there are great communities to join Lucy will send out my information. Call me, email me. This is what we do. Love it. Dora, what you're doing is amazing. Walter, amazing. Call us. We're here. We can be here for each other. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I think, especially talking to a lot of, and being in a situation like Ginny mentioned, where it's just me and my brother, but, unfortunately, and I tell this to a lot of parents, there's not a silver bullet. If, every sibling relationship, like any sibling relationship, not just in disability, is going to be different. There's going to be dynamics that, are gonna, vary depending on what's going on. And are there things that you can do? I think you can start early. You can make sure, their feelings are being validated. I think to the earlier question about how do I nurture for my younger sibling, like all the stuff Ginny and Dora talked about is definitely true, but I think also it's really important that, there's no supposed to's. There's no, you should be this way with your younger brother or sister, or you should be doing this with them. Cause I think that often can be, it's any sibling would tell you, there are a lot of great times. There is a mountain of times when you want to bang your head against the wall. And that starts when you're pretty young. And I think validating those feelings, that it's okay to feel that, because when, especially you're younger, I think it's, I feel guilty. Look at my brother, look at all my parents are doing. Like, who am I to complain about this? And, you should be able to talk about, what's going on, what you're feeling, and just try and, therapy is always a great thing. It helps to normalize and to give air to what you're feeling. And then, like Ginny said, find communities, help, even if a sibling doesn't want to be that involved, just let them know that there's people out there that they can turn to, because, I think telling them, however you feel, however you want to handle this, we would like you to be there for your brother or sister, but also we understand this is your life. And, just knowing there's a place they can turn to. But it's also, I'm sure, incredibly difficult to be a parent of 2 kids and have, be getting older and see one of your siblings say, like, see you later. And, I wish there was a way to say, okay, snap our fingers, this will work, but there's not. But I think, yeah, finding community and just knowing, making sure people can express how they really feel.
That was excellent. And so another question I thought was really important to think about it is, how early would you all have liked to connect with other siblings? Walter, you talked about how powerful it was when you finally did. Is there a too early to start that?
I'll just say quickly, I see the head shaking concurrently with me. I don't think so. I think the nature of the conversations are going to always be different. So, with Sibstrong right now, our youngest that we're working with are about 10, 11 years old, just because the nature of the conversations we're starting to have. But even for, a sibling around between 5 and 9, just being able to be and socialize with other siblings and talk about very, just who they are. And, the early stuff that, Ginny mentioned too, about this is what disability is, all these other things. So I don't think there's any time too young to start, but also I think you have to be very conscious of what you're presenting to the sibling and what you're putting on the sibling. Telling the 7-year-old, like, one day mom and dad aren't going to be here, it's on you. That's not going to help. Wait more than a couple of years. But, yeah, there's never too early to at least start socializing.
And there were some behaviors that Russell would do when I was little, and knowing everything I know now in the world of behavior and special education, that I look back and I'm like horrified that Russell would, do certain behaviors, and I would be like, no, Russell, stop, don't do that in front of people, instead of, now I'm equipped with, the skills and the language and, the verbiage of what to say when, he does a certain behavior. So yes, 10, 11, even I would say even 8 years old. I wish that somebody, knew to teach me, certain things. But again, luckily Russell taught me a lot too, so.
I'm really struggling because there are like a bajillion really, really good questions in the chat. So I'm going to try and like wrap it up with one. And for anybody else, again, our panelists have been awesome, and I'll send out information. They're all happy to speak. I'm happy to talk to folks with the ARC of Northern Virginia. I'll send resources. So like, this is not the end of the discussion, so don't panic if this isn't your question. Let's see. Oh, golly day. So here's a really good one to consider. How about supporting your sibling in their transitions when your sibling lives far away from you? And any thoughts that you all have seen in your lives or in other families that you've worked with on how adult siblings can be involved from a distance? And the pandemic certainly has been a lesson in how we can get involved without being physically close.
I mean, that is a good question. I mean, I live an hour away, so it's not as bad. But I think when I made my transition though, from high school to college, that made a huge difference, a huge impact. Because when you are seeing your sibling every day, and then it goes to, oh, you're only going to see her on holidays, it can turn into another issue. So I do recommend now, because we have all sorts of things that we can communicate with, you know, a daily check-in. Let's have a Zoom call and make them responsible for calling you. That way, not only are they learning technology, but they're using it effectively. Or a phone call, or if they know how to text, just send a daily text, how are you, you know, or something like that, just so that it's not gone, you know, and you're not losing hope, and he or she isn't losing hope because they can't see you every day.
Yeah, I think technology's, become an equalizer and made things, I'm sure, way easier than it was before. I'm lucky Owen calls me 7 or 8 times a day, sometimes 3 times in a row. So we're always in contact. So, but yeah, I think staying in touch, but also like if they're regular check-ins too, that, I know in the last couple of years, I've started calling in for Owen's annual ISP meetings. Just ways to kind of get with the program. You don't have to dive fully in. You shouldn't expect the sibling to be as read in as a parent is after 1 year, but there are ways to start, easing into what these responsibilities look like. If there's one certain piece, maybe you handle, you bring your child in to, deal with SSI stuff alongside you at first, and then add another thing, and just find ways to, if they're ready for it, to slowly just integrate it in.
You all are awesome. I wanted to spend time reading all the like just incredibly positive comments in the chat, but I didn't want to take away from everything that you were sharing. But Dora, in particular, your experience seems to have validated a lot of people. Walter and Jenny, you seem to have given a lot of folks hope here and perspective. Parents and siblings alike seem just phenomenally grateful. And I'm sure that you all will have very busy inboxes going forward because you have really hit a nerve here. I wanted to thank everybody for coming to join us today. I'm going to stop the recording here in just a second, and it'll go up on our YouTube channel. We have, I don't know, 150 maybe now videos on our YouTube channel, and we pull them down when they're not valid. So there's a bunch of stuff up there, but I'll send you the direct link to it and the link to our slides and the links to the things that we've talked about today. And if you are seeing this in the future on our YouTube channel and want to know where to get all of this, go to the arcofnova.org/answers. And any question you put there comes directly to me because I'm the only person who answers the questions. So I'll know exactly what you're talking about. And I'm happy to get you any resources you need. Everyone, absolutely stay well, stay safe, do everything you can to facilitate those positive discussions with your family, and we'll love people as they are. Have a great day, everybody.